Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is going to be a brief session today just to give you a little bit of an overview on admissions at HEC Paris. So just to start out with an introduction, my name's Allison Brown, and I'm one of the marketing and recruitment managers for the HEC Paris MBA program. Please be sure to put some comments in the chat. I will try to integrate your questions a little bit as I'm going through our application process, and I will also try to leave room at the end for different questions. I'm going to ask also for our GMAT Club help here. Can we see? All right, awesome. So we can see the screen here. This slide, it doesn't have like a depth of information, but it does give you a reference point for sort of all of the different points of our application and what you'll be asked in the HEC Paris MBA application. So first and foremost, I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of an overview of the timing of the application, how it works, and what the process will look like. So the HEC Paris application is a little bit different than other schools in that we have a fairly rolling admissions basis. What this means is that we have a deadline about once a month, and we will open recruitment about 1 year in advance. So for example, we just started recruiting for the September 2024 intake in August 2023. So between August and the following June, you'll have a deadline about once a month. That ends up being a lot of deadlines that you have to choose from. We are currently recruiting for both the September 2024 intake, and also we still have space for the January 2024 intake. And the last deadline, if you will need a visa, the last deadline that we recommend for the January intake will be the October 13th deadline. If you have a European passport, no problem. You can do a little quicker of a turnaround. So you can also apply in the November deadline for January 2024. And the fact that I can mention that we actually have spots open for January 2024 will also lead us into maybe talking about which deadline should I apply in. Is it worth it to really rush to get your application in for maybe the first 1 or 2 deadlines? The answer to that is no, you don't need to rush. It is never worth rushing your application. So for HEC Paris, again, it's a unique process, very different from others. Please be reassured that the admissions jury will evaluate your application very similarly, regardless of which deadline you apply in, whether it's the first deadline or the last deadline. An applicant who's going to shine on their application will shine whether you apply in round 1 or in the very last round. I see lots of people being admitted in the last round and also receiving scholarships in the last round. So this advice about when to apply also goes for scholarships as well, that I see scholarships being awarded in every round. It's not that all the scholarships are given by the end. Rest assured that sometimes we have really awesome scholarships at the end of our application recruiting. When people ask me what the best time is to apply, my answer is usually whenever every element of your application is at its best. When you've had as many times to take the GMAT or the GRE, that is really the best time to apply. When you've had time to work on your essays, have somebody who you trust look over your essays, give you advice, when it's a good time for recommenders as well. And then kind of one last element that sometimes people forget to think about is what is your timing for other schools. You'll have a pretty quick turnaround in terms of a response for us. Within 5 weeks whether or not you've been admitted, and then we ask for your response as to whether or not you want to confirm your seat at HEC within about 4 weeks of that decision. So just so that you keep in mind that you might have our decision quicker than other schools. So you don't want to be put in a position where you have to say yes or no to us, but you're waiting on another program to give you their response. So I did mention that it's a 5-week application process. What this means is that when you apply within a deadline, so for example, we had a deadline this past Monday on September 11th. Once you apply for this deadline, within about 2 weeks, you know whether or not you've been pre-selected to move on to the interview process. If you've been pre-selected to move on to the interview process, you have about 2 weeks to complete those interviews. They can absolutely happen virtually. If you notice that your interviewer is in the same city as you are, you can always, of course, request to do the interview in person if you feel like this is how you'll best shine. It's not a problem at all. Either way, no problem. So you'll have about 2 weeks to complete those 2 interviews with 2 different alumni. And then in about a week, so that means 5 weeks from the application deadline, you'll know whether or not you're admitted. You'll have a final admissions jury, and you'll have the response just after that. Then you have about 4 weeks to make a decision on your end. And in the meantime, 1 week after the admissions decision, you know whether or not you've received a scholarship. So this is kind of the overview of the process. Now I'm going to jump a little bit further into what are we looking for in your application. So things that you'll have to submit are an academic bachelor's degree. There are, of course, exceptions to this. We've actually had exceptional students who have unique cases where they haven't actually graduated from an undergraduate institution. If you think you fall into this category of an exception, you definitely need to reach out to us so that we can help you and guide you and make sure that you're eligible to apply. We do require a minimum of 2 years of working experience. What this means is 2 years of work experience by the time you start the program. However, keep in mind that we're looking for career progression. We're looking for those promotions, that you haven't started out in, maybe a lower level position in your company and have stayed in that position for the past 7 years. That'll be evaluated very differently than somebody who maybe started out at the bottom, but now is managing their own team in that company. So while you can apply and you are eligible at exactly 2 years of work experience, think about what are you bringing to the class? What value are you adding? And that will also kind of come in terms of an admissions decision as well. So think about, is it appropriate for you? Will you be an attractive recruit after the MBA? And also, is it the right timing for you? We do require either the GMAT or the GRE. We don't have a preference for either, so please know that you can choose whichever exam best fits you, your profile, your exam taking style. I promise there's no preference for either. For the GMAT, our average class score is 690. Keep in mind, this is an average. That means half the people are above, half are below. There's no right score that we're looking for. The admissions jury will always approach your application holistically. So it doesn't mean that just because you have a 780 GMAT that you're automatically admitted. And similarly, I've seen amazing candidates who maybe had in the low 600s, but really everything else in their application was exceptional. And so not only were they admitted, but they also received scholarships. So again, don't hesitate to get in touch with our team because we can help look at your profile on a holistic view and give our advice, give our feedback, even before you submit your application. You will need to submit an English test unless you're a native English speaker or unless you have completed some part of your studies up until now in an English-speaking country. So for example, maybe you aren't based in the US and didn't grow up in the US, but if you did your undergraduate in the US, then you qualify for an English test waiver. I do always like to put out that we don't offer GMAT or GRE waivers. It doesn't have anything to do with the number of years of work experience you have. Everybody is required to submit a score either for GMAT or GRE. In terms of professional references, ideally, in a dream world, you would get one reference from your immediate manager, the person who is supervising you, managing you, and can speak directly to your performance today at your company today. Then the second reference could maybe be a mentor within your company, maybe not your direct manager, but a mentor or somebody who you worked with on a different project. Your professional references should be people who are above you in the hierarchy. It can absolutely be somebody who you worked with at a previous company, a manager from a previous company. I think there are plenty of reasons why you might not be able to choose your direct manager. For example, maybe you just started at your new company about 4 or 5 months ago, and you don't think that this is the best person who can speak to your performance, your history, your career progression up until now. So just know that it is okay if you don't choose your direct manager. We have an essay, which is essay number 6. You can always share anything that you want to share, explain anything. So if you want to explain why you weren't able to choose your direct manager, you can absolutely do that in essay number 6. We definitely recommend avoid academic references. It was probably a long time ago for you that you were in school. What we're interested in, this is a professional program. Somebody from careers the other day was saying that she doesn't like to call you students. She likes to call you professionals, because that's what you are. You have a professional career. Yes, you are doing an academic program, but there's such a professional emphasis on this program that it doesn't feel like you're a student. So again, we're looking for your professional track record, not necessarily what a professor has to say about your performance in class maybe 8 years ago. In terms of international exposure, this is something quite unique to HEC Paris. Because we are such a diverse class, we typically have over 50 or 60 different nationalities. And people have lived and worked in maybe 4 different countries each. They hold different passports, different nationalities. So what we're really looking for is, will you thrive in this kind of environment? So when it comes to international exposure, yes, of course, if you've worked in another country or studied in another country, then that's quite easy. You will share these experiences. But don't forget, it's not limited to maybe just physically having been based in another country. If you are based in your home country, but you work on an international team and your manager is based in North America, and you have worked on markets in Asia and Africa and Latin America, these all count as international exposure, and they go to answer that question. Yes, this person will thrive in the diverse environment at HEC Paris. So, don't be shy in sharing different experiences. When in doubt, share it. It's just another element of your application for us to consider. I promise it will never be viewed negatively if you share something that at the end of the day, maybe the admissions jury doesn't feel like really adds to your application. That's absolutely fine. Moving on to leadership potential. Like this says, it's potential. It's not a proven track record of leadership. You don't have to have managed large teams. That's not the point at all. That you will develop your leadership skills while you are in the program, but that the potential is there. That's what we're looking for. So if you can show that maybe you've taken the lead on a few projects, or maybe you manage the integration of a new CRM or something like that, that goes to support your leadership potential. I think that this is also a great opportunity for your reference to speak about you. There's somebody who's higher than you. They're managing you. They see your potentials. Talk to them, share with them that leadership potential is something that's important for us. And so if they're able to, they can always share that they see this potential in you, and then give an example to support why. So lastly, motivation and career objectives. This is an important part of the application, because we want to know your thought process. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know your story. And also, of course, we want to know why HEC, why Paris, why France, why Europe. So, when you're approaching the question about what are your career objectives, what are your motivations, think about it in telling your story. Here's my story up until now. Here's my career up until now. Why do you want to do an MBA? Why do you want to stop your career? Take a pause, do a full-time program. Why does an MBA make sense for you? What do you want to get out of it? And what do you want to bring to the MBA program? So here's your story up until now. Then what do you want to do in the MBA program? What clubs do you want to be a part of? Where do you want to focus? What excites you about HEC in particular? Is it the executive committee, the TEC? Is it the MBAT, the MBA Olympics? Is there a particular alumni who inspires you, who has graduated from HEC? Definitely, share what's special about our program that excites you. And then there's the after part. So you've told your story up until now. You've thought about, what your MBA is going to look like. Well, what are your career objectives afterwards? What are your short-term objectives? What are your long-term objectives? Don't forget that the MBA program is also a time of exploration. So it's okay to be honest, to be authentic, to say, my plan A is to focus on management consulting within MBB, but I also love my current position in a tech company. So I'm also interested in exploring maybe product management positions within tech. It's okay to be honest. You don't have to know exactly where you will be in 2 years from now or in 3 years from now. It's okay. Share what you're thinking with us, so that we know that HEC makes sense for you, that we can actually help you, that we can help you achieve your goals, and that we feel confident that an MBA is the right next step for you. I think it's always fine to be clear in your career objectives. That's really what we're looking for. And before I move over to the comments in the chat, I do want to add that you'll notice once you open our application, you'll see that we have a lot of creative questions. HEC is unique in this. We ask questions like, if you could be anything in another life, what would you be? Or who is a figure who is inspiring to you? Or tell us about a monument or location in your hometown where you would recommend for somebody to visit the first time that they're in your hometown or your home country. These are all very creative questions. Feel free to have fun with them. Be creative. They don't have to be practical answers. What we're looking for is, who are you? Who are you outside of your CV? What excites you? What passions do you have? What are you doing in your free time? So I'm always big on giving examples because I think it helps to give you somewhere to start. So great example for the question, if you could be anything in another life, what would you be? A recent applicant shared that they have a passion for Star Wars. So this is obviously not something that's like super quantifiable. It's clearly just something fun about them. Okay, so we've learned that they have this passion for Star Wars, that they love the Star Wars series and are really a Star Wars buff. Then they go on to explain that in another life, they would be a Jedi. And they do a nice job of tying in this fantasy career with the MBA, talking about the ethics of leadership and the ethics of power, that this is a big part of the Jedi's job, is to know how to navigate having so much power and using it ethically and using it for good. So they tie it into MBA values, HEC Paris values. So I think that's a really great approach to answering that question. And I love using that example because it is clearly not something that exists in this world today. I don't think we have Jedis around. So, have creative liberty, answer it in a way that's meaningful for you, that's authentic, but that also, is giving us a window into who you are outside of just your CV. So one last thing I will say before moving over to the comments is that we have a way for you to share more about your profile. We have a Connect with Us form where you can share your CV, share some elements of who you are, why you're looking at HEC Paris. And this way we will give you immediate feedback on your MBA potential at HEC. And also it will put you in contact with your regional recruitment manager. It could be me or one of my 3 other colleagues who cover all the regions around the world. And we're here to work with you, give you all of our advice and help you through the application process as well, answer any questions that you have, not only about the application, but about the program or any questions that you really have. That's what we're here for. So I saw some questions in the chat already. I saw some questions about the Masters in Management. Unfortunately, I am really dedicated to the MBA program at HEC Paris. That's my expertise, but I do have counterparts who are experts in the Masters in Management or all of the other masters that we offer at HEC Paris. I know that this week we were The rankings came out for the Financial Times, and our Masters in Management came out #1. We're obviously very proud of that. And of course, this also relates to the MBA as well, because we are one HEC Paris family, one community. There are many resources that are shared between programs. So if you're interested in the master's programs, I would definitely encourage you to check out our website for the master's, and similarly to there's a way to get in touch with the MBA program, there's also a way to get in touch with the master's, but I won't focus too much more on it as I'm not that expert. I'll leave that to my colleagues. And then I see a question in the chat. I'm considering taking the focus edition of the GMAT. Is it worth missing the first deadline? Yeah, like I said earlier in my talk, it is absolutely fine if you aren't in the first application deadline or even the second one. It's never worth application. So my advice, if you feel like the GMAT focus is really where you will shine, like this is the best way for you to get the best score, absolutely go for it. HEC will definitely accept the GMAT focus, and similarly, the GRE is coming out with a more condensed version as well. We will also accept that, and we will evaluate it based on the percentiles that are shared with us by GMAT. So for example, if you are in the 90th percentile for the GMAT focus, that will be just as powerful as being in the 90th percentile in the traditional GMAT. And again, know that you have time to submit your application. Know that, yes, it's always great to be maybe in the first half of recruiting. You know, the class is wide open, the admissions jury has an open mindset. But in all honesty, they will really evaluate your profile the same, whether it's in, you know, the first or second round or maybe in the 5th, 6th round. So if you feel like you can shine better on the GMAT focus, sure, take a step back, wait, take it, see how you do, and maybe target one of our early deadlines in 2024, maybe the January or February deadline. I think I covered most of the other questions in the chat. I will give it, I know we have a minute, so maybe I will wait for a few other questions to come in. And while I'm waiting, I'll just take a step back and reiterate what I said at the beginning, that don't forget that HEC truly looks at your application holistically. There is no one part of your application that's more important than another. There's no magic GMAT score that gets you an automatic admissions. So I think whenever we ask current students to share their advice, to share their application tips, it's usually be authentic. You know, share who you are. Don't be scared of sharing any details about yourself that show resilience. You know, we're really looking at the full picture of your career, who you are, where do you fit into our class? What value are you bringing to the class? And that can be both professionally and with interest outside of the class. You know, we're small to medium-sized programs, so one person can make a big difference in the class. So we put a lot of emphasis on looking at who you are, you know, holistically, not just who are you on paper, what was your GMAT score, what company are you working at. It's a lot more that goes into it. And again, one last piece of advice before we wrap up is please do go on our website and fill out a Connect with Us form. This puts you in touch with our team, and it makes it easy for you to have a direct line with us, be invited to events happening maybe in your city, be invited to webinars, get our newsletter. This really helps us stay in contact with you and we are able to support you in the best way possible. So it's the best step I can share with you. And yes, I will definitely be happy to encourage my colleagues who work in the Masters in Management to participate in future GMAT club events. We're always happy, from the MBA side, we're always happy to participate in these events because I know it's helpful for everyone who's listening, and we're always happy to help. So unless we don't have any more questions, I will probably sign off for now and just encourage you to watch the follow-up video where you have a walkthrough step-by-step of our application so that you can be introduced to all of the interesting questions that we have, and you'll have an expert who can navigate it. So for now, I will stick around for the last 3 minutes. Please don't hesitate to put anything in the chat that you can. I'm going to try to stop sharing for now. For the GMAT Club, I'm so sorry. I'm unable to stop sharing my screen and move over. I see. Okay, here we go. So I will say thank you again to everybody, and I'm going to sign off for now, but we look forward to meeting you all. I look forward to maybe seeing a little bit more of information, seeing your CVs in our Connect With Us form, and I hopefully look forward to seeing your applications in the future. So wishing everybody a great day, and thank you so much for your time.